everyone's favorite subject.
What?
Okay. Well, I just want to say that the meeting that we had in the Obit LC school, I know quite a few of you commissioners were there. But I think that many of us as citizens were very frustrated with that meeting. First of all, I thought it was going to be about the proposal and about the township's recommendations. And I felt that quite a large chunk of it was a sales pitch for the wind companies. And the other thing I was very frustrated about is, as the planning board went through the different proposal, that they were always concerned about the wind companies. And not once did I hear anybody on that board state, well, how will this affect the citizens? And this should really be a no-brainer. We want to protect the citizens. I don't think what we're asking for is exclusionary, which I keep hearing over and over again from Pete Preston. It's not. There's many other counties and townships that have those same requirements we're asking for. We just want our health, we want our home, we want our biggest investment in life to be protected. I don't think that's too much to ask. So one of the questions that I really want to know is who gave Pete Preston the direction to completely gut the proposal that was sent out to the townships? That was a fairly decent proposal, and why are we back to square one? I feel like we're just beating a dead horse for this past 2 years and we're not making any progress. So that's the question I want answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, item 4. Move to consider authorizing resolution number 18-04-01 for adoption of county utilization values for 2018 and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary
I
documents.
think you jumped it a little bit.
I'm sorry.
It's our community development monthly reports.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll keep you standing here for a while.
Because I'm really anxious to hear them.
Oh, come on. Building permits 18, zoning permits 19, and code enforcement actions 14. The reason that's lower than our typical 40 average is because Dave Shrinka was on vacation for 2 weeks, and the gentleman that works with me covered all of his duties. So we only had one person working during those 2 weeks. So that's why those activities were down. And that's all I really have for the normal monthly reports.
Do we have a date yet for the next public hearing on wind turbines? I know we're looking at the 2nd, the 8th, or the 9th of May.
Right, we're very much focusing on the 8th, have calls into Corunna Public Schools, Shiawassee Public Schools, and the City of Corunna for their community center. We did receive some complaints that doing it out towards the northwest quadrant was not good for those in the northeast quadrant, so we're trying to get back centralized. So we should hear back soon. I did send the ordinance as amended for the Planning Commission action at that meeting to legal counsel. They've already gotten me back some preliminary, some of their edits, and so we'll go through it one last time with them, and we'll be ready to have a public hearing document released fairly shortly.
So just so everyone here knows kind of the timeline, the idea would be that gets voted off the Planning Commission on the 8th, then it comes to us the following week. So we have May, and then we have June to go over it. Our moratorium ends on June 30th.
So the public hearing and the vote comes on the same night?
I believe so.
It can.
It can.
It's at the discretion of the Planning Commission.
The feeling I'm getting from my colleagues on the Planning Commission is they want to get it to us as soon as possible. So whether it's ready or not, I have a feeling it's going to be coming on. It's going to be voted out.
We're just going to discuss at one meeting and that's
No. So it's going to come to us. So we have it. We'll get it. Depending on what, we'll have it beginning the 14th. So we have meetings the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th of May, and then our June meetings are the 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. We can approve it. We can make changes and approve it. We can send it back down to Planning Commission. We could wait a couple more months and review it ourselves and go over it in more detail. But I need a reminder, when our moratorium ends on June 30th, so I'm just saying, don't be surprised if we have to extend the moratorium. Because, I mean, it's taken a year and a half for it to get to us, and for us to only spend, 5 weeks on it, 6 weeks, probably doesn't seem right, so.
Yeah, especially if we want some revision there.
Correct. And then it has to be reviewed by the lawyers and all that stuff, yeah. So I'm the
And the revision's gotta go back to planning commission too
It
then?
doesn't have to. But we could say, you know what, let's send it back for more work, or, or.
We'll work on it ourselves, huh?
What would be the process if, in fact, it comes to us, goes through planning, public hearing, you guys pass it, I don't mean you guys, planning commission passes it, comes to the commissioners. We say no, we'd like to see these revisions, send it back to planning. Planning says, no, we're not revising that. Then what happens? And can planning say,
I guess they send it back up to us.
as is?
And then what happens, and Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, no different than kind of what was happening with, Proline, at some point, somebody has to make the commission the responsibility to vote on it and enact it. Or else it looks like we're just stalling,
So the Board of Commissioners could make the changes and vote on them themselves, which would supersede planning commission, correct?
Nope. And then the
Is
next
that
day,
right?
petitions will be gathered and a referendum will be started, and there's that whole issue of what we do, if we change it, we do a different version, or, But we can't, and I'm getting a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, everyone says vote no. It isn't like you're trying to explain to everybody, for us, it isn't a vote yes or no on wind turbines, it's a rewrite of the zoning ordinance. And obviously not everybody understands that, because you can't just keep saying no, 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 eventually.
I think though, in reality, they're emphasizing the point that they don't like the way it's written. They don't like the wording as it is now. I think most people understand that we can't just simply say, no, you can't come here. I do believe that, truly. I think what we're seeing, though, is the emphasis put on, please look after our well-being. And whether you believe that or not, that's the way I look at it. I don't think there's people out there that really think that we can just say no. But we can do our duty to the community and listen to what they have to say and try to abide by that the best we can without putting ourselves in jeopardy of being sued up the river.
Right.
And I think, there's a lot of legal advice out there that's going around. There's townships and counties that have passed these various types of ordinances without being sued. So I would hope that people wouldn't run scared of being sued for everything that we do. So I think we need to keep an open mind, and I think that people are expressing themselves. I still don't get any letters from pro-wind turbine
I was
people.
just going to mention that at our last meeting, we were given, or maybe it was the planning commission, not our this meeting.
Mhm.
Planning commission was given like 50 names of people that were in support.
Okay.
But yet this last couple of weeks, all out of my phone and my emails, it's all been
I'm not saying they're not there, they're just not.
They're all anti. I personally, and I know like you spoke with some of them in your constituents. They're calling all the commissioners, and everybody has said no. The only yes that I know of is the wind company brought a stack of like 50 names to the last planning commission meeting, right?
Approximately.
It was planning commission.
Yes, it was the regular meeting that came under public comment.
Yeah, it was the day after our public hearing.
And are those names public?
They can be, Pete has them, they were gonna make copies and distribute them.
Are they leaseholders? Do we know?
Sure, most of them probably are.
Exactly.
That's why they have them and they were given to us.
Which, that makes sense, of course, They have a financial interest in it, of course they're gonna be in favor. That's a no-brainer. That's no criticism, it's reality.
So that's gonna be a pretty hot topic, the 25th? Is that when their meeting is?
No, the 8th.
I'm talking about this month.
No,
No,
there's
no,
nothing
no.
on any more regular agenda items for wind turbines unless somebody wishes to come and speak under public comment. This room can't accommodate the number of folks that are interested in it.
Oh,
So we want to make sure that we have enough room for everybody to
So
present.
the one, the 25th is just gonna be, won't have anything to do
It'll
with.
just be like a regular planning commission.
Oh, okay, I'm just asking that,
Yep.
because people are calling in.
No, the next one's gonna be, hopefully, well, we have 3 dates blocked off, the 2nd, the 8th, and the 9th of May. Pete says we're leaning towards the 8th of May.
I thought it'd be November or something.
No. May could quickly turn into November. So, and I would ask, you know, as many of the commissioners, join me for that public hearing. We had, the last one was Mark was there, Mike was there,
Gary was there.
and Gary was there. It was 3 of
Where's
us.
that?
The one over at LC.
Oh.
It was the 3 of you.
And you were there.
And I was there with the spotlight, yes. So, okay, anything else? Monthly reports?
Not on that topic.
Okay, well, if you could stay up here, because.
I sure will.
Okay. Item 5, consider authorizing resolution number 18-0401 for adoption of county equalization values for 2018 and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents. Do we have a motion?
I make that motion.
Is there support? Okay. Discussion. Any questions, discussions? Pete, you want to add anything?
I just want to add, right now, it looks like the county's assessed value, what the assessor applies to property, that went up approximately 3%, and that taxable value looks like it's gone up 3.64%. So essentially, the revenue that you collect roughly is going up over 3%. We have not calculated the Headley yet, so we don't know if it's going to reduce your millage. As soon as I know that, I will let you know.
I'm making an assumption that the townships are involved in this process as well.
Absolutely. This is the process where the township develops its assessment roll based on our studies that are done last year. They develop their assessment rolls. They go through the March border review. We check to make sure they're compliant with the state standards for the ratio between assessed value and true cash value. And we run them through a process to come up with these final numbers, and then we do the final reporting to the state. We're equalized.
Does every township get the same percentage then?
No. No, each township is different. In some townships, you may have a decrease in commercial industrial valuations, and in the city, you may have an increase. But what I'm telling you overall is there's more than a 3.5% jump in taxable value, which is what you will apply your millage to.
So were they all close around that number, or were there some that spiked really high? Or?
It varies. It varies because what we do with the studies initially is we're just gauging how the assessor is valuing property per what we find the market to be. These are the hard numbers that you're actually going to base millages against. So it goes from loosey-goosey and what the assessor's doing on a per unit to us finally locking down the hard numbers and then start the process all over again.
Can they put them higher than you did?
They cannot exceed
Oh.
50% valuation between assessed and true cash value that we established as the market. And they cannot go lower than 49% of that. So the ratio has to be between 0.49 and 0.50. If they go above or below that, then we do a correction on that 4037 form and ask you to help us get them into that range again. It's called factoring, and we do not like to do factoring. So that's why we work with the assessors early in the year to make sure that does not happen. Because the state sees that, they don't like that. So.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I don't want to get real nervous either. Trying to understand it.
Okay, so we have motion, support, and discussion. Any other further discussion?
Can I just get a clarification real quick? You know, I'm jumping ahead a little bit to item number 6. What's the difference between item number 5 and item number 6 when we're considering authorizing resolution, blah, 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 on total equalized valuations? Just so I'm a little clearer, I literally read through all this stuff, which is an enormous amount of information. But what's the difference in what we're considering for number 5 and number 6?
5 is just the, let me get to it here. I don't have that particular resolution. The requirements for equalization requires a resolution to be adopted, but then for some antiquated reason, it also requires a resolution for, or not a resolution, but just a statement that you've accepted the 4024 and that you're going to sign, the chair and the county clerk, for each individual 4037 for the units to put in their assessment book. So it's one of those things we try to follow it as close as possible. It doesn't always make sense. The state tax law dates back to 1897, so there's still some delays in there. We still have to deal with timing that allows a horse and carriage to get to Lansing. So it depends, but we're just trying to cover all bases there.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6, consider approving the total equalized valuations of 4024 and finalized equalized valuations by local jurisdiction 4037, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
So moved.
Do I have a motion? Do I have support?
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion? Or are we all set from further discussion?
Just thank you, Mr. Bruff, for reading through all that stuff.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, consider approving revisions to the building and trade inspector contracts, including previous approval of fee per inspection and addition of requirement for contractor livability coverage.
And that should be
That should be
liability.
liability coverage?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was like,
I read that.
what is livability coverage?
That's a good one.
Okay, so correction, for contractor liability coverage.
Right.
Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion support, discussion?
Yes, couple questions. I read through all that too. It was really exciting reading this morning. I'm assuming all the changes were your highlighted areas there. The changes were good. There's no other changes because we don't have the old. Well, we have the original to go by, and then you highlighted some specific changes. That's it.
And those have been done since about 2010. We had an original contract that we'd entered into after I came to the county and worked with the contractors. At that time, corporate counsel had reviewed and stuff, but we've had some changes over time. One was the fee schedule. The other thing is that for some reason we didn't have, it almost seemed like the county would either cover the liability of the independent contractor or left it totally omitted to where it just said the county won't be responsible for it, but it never put the burden onto the independent contractor. My company, we carry liability coverage on each of our employees as well as errors and omissions insurance. So I thought it was, if we're hiring other contractors, we should make sure that they're concerned with the work that they're doing and they need their own coverage. And since they're contractors, the county really shouldn't be covering them.
And I have two more. Is there an individual in that position now? For the record, who is that?
There's actually 4 positions. There's the building inspector, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Currently, the state of Michigan is providing us services for the mechanical and plumbing. Dane Deisler is our electrical inspector, and I can't remember the other guy's name who is the backup inspector for him on the electrical. Dave Schrinka is currently our building inspector contractor, and then my company provides us backup services to Dave.
My last question, and I warned you guys I wasn't going to let this go, but in regards to the state coming in and looking at the jail and the code violations that they cited, in particular the ones that I remember are the electrical violations. Are we responsible as a county and a group, that particular group of people, or Mr. Deisler in this case? I think it's Deisler.
Mm-hmm.
Is he responsible for looking after repairs that have done to county buildings by licensed contractors that have pulled permits? I would hope they would have to pull permits as well. And does he follow up and make sure? Because there's an awful lot of violations at the jail. Electrical violations are the ones that come to mind that the state cited. So who enforces that? Do we enforce ourselves? And if we don't, why don't we?
Under the jurisdiction that we have for electrical would not include the city of Corona, so he would not be the licensed inspector that would do that. I'm not sure what division of the state came in and did the inspection. Was it Bureau of Construction Codes or was it another entity?
MDOC and then a private company.
Okay.
We had two, actually, and they cited similar violations, code violations. Not just electrical, but that's the one that specifically comes to mind that, because we just had a lot of electrical work done. And my concern is, if there are code violations within the county, and we're enforcing code violations throughout the county of private individuals, why are we not enforcing our own? And why are we allowing those code violations to exist without being corrected by the contractor who did the work? That contractor is responsible for coming back and correcting those violations. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah, if the county, if the sheriff's department or the jail was located in one of the townships where we have jurisdiction, then yes, our inspector would be responsible for making sure it's a licensed contractor doing the work and making sure that it's done to code. We don't go into public schools though, because the Bureau of Construction Codes reviews that. The jail here would be under the city of Corona's jurisdiction.
So when there's sorry to interrupt, Mike, so when there's work that's done at the jail, are we supposed to be pulling permits with the city?
I would say so, yes.
And are we? And so are they not coming in and inspecting? Is this similar to the city of
It must
Shiawassee?
not be. I mean, we send our plans, we send everything over there.
This has been an issue with municipalities in this county that it's a money-making opportunity and they're not actually coming to do the inspection. Similar things happening in Shiawassee. I'm still waiting on 12 years inspection on my furnace and air conditioner.
I think they inspect. I know there was one time we did some work out back here, might have been here even on this building, and they came and shut the whole project down. So I know they keep tabs on it. They watch whenever we do work, so if we don't have permits, they definitely come and.
My proposal is that, if we have licensed contractors doing work within the county, on county buildings, and if the city of Corona is responsible, then we should hold them accountable. But we also should be holding the contractors accountable. And if they're not going to correct these code violations, then I would propose that we eliminate them from the bidding process. They need to be taken off that. Because if they're low bidding and they're coming in and doing inferior work and we're not following up. I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but it just bugs the crap out of me. Sorry. It just really bothers me that, the county can get away with things, but the public can't. There's something wrong there. And if a contractor isn't held accountable, then they need to be eliminated from our bidding process. I don't care if they're the lowest one every single time. They're doing inferior work. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but
I'm not
at
on
least till
this
tomorrow.
committee, but I'd like to put in 2 cents at least. They said all the air conditioners were bad and everything else. Whoever the state was, we just put all brand new ones up there. So whoever the state's inspected, just because they think they're God, they're not always right either.
Well, they weren't
They
criticizing
might think the
new air
electricians
conditioners.
like that, they don't know all that.
No,
They were
the air
placed
conditioner was, there was no safety rating.
They were the placement and the safety.
He said they were all bad though, he said, up there. I read it right there, he says all the air conditioners are all right there.
So that's actually not true.
So should we have the city come in and do an inspection of our jail?
Yeah, and I know we're off topic because
Well,
it doesn't have
I-
anything to do with this contract, but you clarified that and that's good. But absolutely. But that
Okay.
might be something for public,
Okay.
tomorrow's meeting.
Maybe, okay, well, yeah. Do that.
Sorry.
We'll do that tomorrow on the courts and public safety probably. Okay, so item 7. We have motion, we have support, we have discussion. Any other discussion on item 7?
Actually, I do. Any progress on hiring someone for the mechanical? I know it's been looking for.
Yes, we have a short list of mechanical and plumbing contractors. We would like to advertise one last time, now that we have a fee that would draw folks that last time just scoffed at it. We're paying enough now, we're going to attract good talent. And just to follow up on what was said earlier, if anyone has any evidence or sees that one of our contracted inspectors is treating somebody differently, you let me know. You let me know if they're doing drive-bys and not inspecting. We need to know that so that we can get rid of that person and get somebody quality. Because these are public health safety issues and they could cause serious harm. So we need to have those inspections done.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 8, consider authorizing amendments to Article 4, Section 4.3.28 and Article 21, Section 21.2 of the county ordinances to allow the planning commission to waive certain specific requirements pertaining to a historic facility or old-style wooden barn when applied to similar established uses such as greenhouses, nurseries, and etc.
So moved. Second.
Okay, discussion.
Summary, quick one.
Do you want to start? And then
I would just say, look, we adopted an ag tourism and entertainment establishment to allow pretty much wedding venues to occur in old historic barns. What we had was a rush of those. We're working our way through them, but what we had was places that have been set up as nurseries, gardens, greenhouses, where they would gather large people anyway for events, wanted to start doing this too. Planning Commission saw that as an economic trend, growth and development trend, and said, hey, let's amend the ordinance, and that's what they did quickly and sent it back up to you. So they're just trying to make it more flexible for those established, again, nurseries, greenhouses, and you know, where people have you know, gardens and stuff like that, to have these wedding venues as well. Apparently it's big business now.
Now, it's not so, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's not so liberal that it's gonna upset a lot of township people. Because, you know, what we ran into obviously with Fortress and, gosh, what was another one?
Well, there's Fortitude, which
not Fortress.
which was a rezoning versus Everlastings.
Everlastings is going to fall under this.
They're gonna fall under this, and they're okay with Everlastings because it's not gonna be rezoned. It's gonna be a special use permit, and they're okay with that. It's off of a side paved road. It's not on 52, and they're okay with that nursery, and they've got an old style barn. They're okay with them doing weddings versus the Fortitude situation.
Yeah, it's just the noise factor and the invasion of country life has become a hot topic.
Well, with Everlastings, they don't really have any close neighbors, and it's back and it's off the road and everything. Only reason I know this is because it's come through the planning commission. I've looked at the maps and everything.
We have 2 more coming, and we still notify everybody within 300 feet, and they can appear and address the issue with the planning commission.
So, any other discussion? And I believe we also changed the definition to the old style wooden barn, so it could be an old one, or it could be a new one that was reconstructed with old barns also. So, if anybody in this room is interested in that. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Item number 9, consider accepting and place on file the Shiawassee County Register of Deeds 2017 annual report.
So moved. Support?
So, a motion and support. Do the presentation?
I thought it was going to be Wednesday, but I couldn't get it to.
Just come every meeting.
Probably should.
Or you can do it now and you don't have to
I don't have
come
to.
later.
Just wait till Wednesday.
Wait until Wednesday.
Or just
I don't.
quick 30 seconds, just so.
We did well last year.
Yes, we did.
We collected $1,968,065.14 in the Register of Deeds office. Of that, $533,410 went into the general fund. That comes from recording fees. Each recording is $30 per document. It comes from requests for copies of the documents, searches, and it also takes into account our county transfer tax. On page 2 of the report, it gives more of a breakdown of what into the general fund, what was the transfer tax, and what was the fees collected. Did you read my report today,
I
Mike?
did.
Okay, I just didn't want to feel left out. That
No,
everybody
I
was
think
there.
you're at, correct me if I'm wrong, 2001, 2002 level?
Close.
Yeah, 700,000 was
Yeah.
was the biggest year, the 500,000 was 2001, in that range?
In
Red.
2003.
I'm showing up.
2003, yeah, you know it better than I do. The revenues and expenses, I kind of tried to show how many employees I had when the expenses were higher. The expenses, I'm guessing at because I don't have a final report from 2017, but my revenues I'm on. Tells you how many documents we recorded last year, 12,095 documents. How's that? We're doing well.
We're
doing well in the
definitely
register
going in
deeds
the right
office.
direction.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Other agenda items, I don't have anything else. Let's make sure that tomorrow on the Courts of Public Safety agenda, we have on about the electrical inspections of the
Oh,
jail.
I won't forget.
What's that? You won't bring it
I
up?
got it. No, I
You won't
got
bring it
it.
up.
It's on page 2 for Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, second call to the public. Okay. Mr. Mankey, you'd like to talk about wind turbines?
Yes, 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 I would. I think we've all heard of what's called the silent majority. Silent majority doesn't complain unless there's something that they need to complain about. So you're not going to get yes. I know a lot of people who, I'll just tell you this. My readers, what I'm hearing from my readers, I hear some no. But I'm hearing more, mainly, well, are the no's going to step up and pay their taxes? The extra taxes that are going to be needed. We need the money. I have a former relative that lives in Ithaca. He loves his too. You drive up to Ithaca and you look and they're everywhere. Get up by Cadillac, get up, and you talk to those people. They don't mind them. It's pain in their community. We're sitting here, we're talking about we need money in this community. And the same token, we're looking at placating a few people who don't want them. This is money. This is progress. This is 2018. This isn't, I think I told you this once before. This reminds me of when I write stories on history of our county. And I write how this county, the people in the country, they didn't want the railroads to come through because, my God, those engines were going to be noisy and they were going to scare their animals and they weren't going to be able to sleep at night. And so, we allowed the railroads. Then they came the cars. Oh my God, they're going to be noisy on the roads in the country. This is progress. This brings money, brings energy. This is the right thing for America. It's the right thing for our community. And the last thing I'll tell you is I had a lady contact me that's a no. She moved here from California. She had one in her backyard, but by God, she didn't want one here. So let's keep them in California, but let's not have them here. So, listen, the silent majority aren't going to be calling you up and saying, put them in, put them in, put them in. But you will hear from them when you want tax money and you've already cut out a revenue that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any other call to the public? With that, meeting adjourned.
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll move to the first opportunity for the public to address the board. If anyone has anything at this time? If not, we'll move right into agenda item 4. I'll entertain a motion to consider the request of probate family court to assign a deputy sheriff to serve as a full-time bailiff. The estimated annual cost to start at $82,477. The court sorts a portion of the estimated annual cost that can be covered by certain court funds. So moved. All right, discussion, motion and second discussion on this.
Sit, stand.
Go for it, whatever you want to do. Sit, stand at this.
I've been sitting all day. You know, I guess I'll start with the money because we've had some positive changes in that we've had a lot more revenue coming in. To be honest, I purloined an employee from another department of this county, and our collections have simply, the efforts for collections have simply gone up by about 400%, as has our collected amount. So we got a little change to kick in there. And, you know, substantively, we need a deputy. Before there was the security built on the building, people associate the need for armed guards, as it were, with criminality. But really, when you take people's money and take their kids, you know, we hold the record for the most weapons confiscated. By the way, probate court over in estate money, 19 knives were confiscated. So what I've got now, what Phil Hevlin put in when I was elected, was a button, and it is, I won't say the expletive we normally use. It's the holy crap button. I used that once when we had an out-of-line teenager, and I think we had members of 5 different departments coming in. I mean, it like shuts down all of 911, and it's like go to, you know, and then this year, Tim put in another button which just alerts security downstairs. It's like, I don't, you know, if I got somebody acting a ruckus, I don't need 5 departments coming in. And so it just activates downstairs, but you know, there's one of them down there because one of them is doing this and one of them is doing that. I know, I'm told district court was interested in getting somebody to do the lien work. Sarah, my administrators, talked to the sheriff, and we think that we can encompass the lien work, and, you know, as well as the deputy needs. We also think we can increase some revenue more by using it like the friend of the court has, and that's serving. When we talk about revenue, let me just say how we do it. People have to pay fines and costs for their kids, okay, and they're pretty low compared to other courts, usually under $300, and they don't do it. And so we have a show cause date. It used to be once a month, and then you come in, and it sounds, we want it to sound scary. Show cause is why you should be held in contempt. But the reality is, we set up a payment plan. We have to, rather than get into any means testing, it's basically there's $25 to $50 a month, depending on whether there's employment or disability or anything like that. And then sometimes we are now doing, we used to do about 10 a month. We're now doing close to about 80. But we have to, then we have the people who don't show up. That's really the only time you risk going to jail, is not by not paying your fines, but by not showing up. And so we issue those bench warrants. It's oftentimes, if it's under a certain amount, it's just pay or stay. The bond is set up what you owe. If they owe a lot, then we work with it. But this bailiff, like the one friend of the court is using, could also be doing some of that service work. Sarah, did you have anything?
Sure. Yeah, just a couple things. This has really been a long time coming for this court. We have security issues up there on a regular basis, and we do get as much help as we can from downstairs and from across the street, but it's with a lot of it is with our delinquents too. It's this quick. I had an incident 2 weeks ago where I had a kid try to assault me. Dad brings him up, he's out of control. I'm trying to get him in our holding cell because, I mean, I gotta do something right this second. I was the only one there. He starts kicking, I mean, and I'm thinking, this is just ridiculous. We have 2 guys that work there, and we've used them as security, and they don't like it a bit. I mean, they really don't, and that's unfortunately what we relied on for a long, long time, and it's gotten to the point where everything else is getting more serious, and our need, I'm the court administrator, I don't need to be putting hands on kids to get in the holding room till I can even get somebody from security upstairs. So that was just my most recent experience. It's one of countless incidents that we've had. We do have this new 10%, it's very complicated with the child care fund. We are getting 10% back on our submissions to child care fund, and it is gonna result in what I suspect to be about $35,000 a year, and that is money that I really thought this is the time we really need to ask this deputy, and that's our contribution. Plus the collections, we do have large collections for kids who go to detention and placement. We do get the parents to pay back, or we do assess, and we just got we got a check for $18,000 last week from a parent who finally paid us. So I mean, we do have large lump sums that come in occasionally. So it's more than the nickel and dime stuff, and I do think that we can make up probably another $15,000 above and beyond what we have been doing towards it. And then I talked to Sheriff Bogle pretty extensively, looked at our space. I do think that we're pretty well equipped if we get this deputy. I think we could keep him pretty close to full-time busy, but I thought it was sort of a perfect storm of the need for this lean operator. We have space, we have all of that worked out, and I think that with the approximate, what we believe to be approximate 10 hours a week with that would easily be a full-time position, and if we could get the contribution then for that portion for the lien.
He would cover
County.
circuit court lien, yes, and
County.
district, it would be all, he or she would cover all the liens. I guess the bottom line is we think we can come in, you know, this may be optimistic, but we're thinking we are gonna have about 65% in our own increased revenues. So we're probably asking to cover about 30 out of the 80 in terms of projected.
Which is what he had put in his. So that's why, like I said, I think that the lien, we've already talked about who's going to be cross-trained to do that when the deputy would be out on vacation or sick. I think we would be able to have that cross-training done for those minor times when we'd have to input it. But we
have 2 caseworkers who are former NCAA athletes, and the small one is 6'3" and 220. And they volunteered to do that the same way you volunteer in the Army. A veteran. Sarah's the only one laughing. I think she's. Yeah, they didn't. They just get stuck. And you know, it's always been a concern of mine because they're trained in a lot of stuff, but child restraint is kind of frightening. You know, you get the kid goes down and knocks his head on the corner of that table because, you know, where are we going with that? Sheriff?
Yeah, so they contacted me in reference to providing court security, and I think from the stories I've heard and from what I know in the past, it is a volatile situation, especially when you terminate parental rights and things. So I think that the need for the security in there kind of goes without saying. I think the other true bonuses to this would be that yes, with that deputy, we could assist him in warrant collections, picking up some of the money for that's delinquent that owed to the court, so that'll help generate some money. And the other thing was, I know we've been talking about the lien entry. We want to get these warrants out of the court so they're valid on their face, and this is a unique opportunity to do that under the same duties. I would like to mention that on August 22nd, 2017, the state's 911 committee did a random audit of Shiawassee County, and we recently got the report back. And in that, the recommendations to Shiawassee County, the state's 911 committee recommends to remove warrants from the central dispatch. All warrants should be entered at the court and valid on face, held at the court in order to eliminate the potential loss of warrants and to better account for timely entry and removal from the lien system. So that's exactly what we're proposing.
That's on the bottom of page 7. You guys are looking. There's 2 recommendations. That's one of them.
So that's exactly what this proposal would do. Would bring that duty over there. And the nice thing is it's within walking distance of the circuit court for the friend of the court warrants or the PPOs that come out of the clerk's office and things of that nature, so.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Okay, so we have clarification on this, because I've been hearing this from many different departments. Will this bailiff then, he will be the one that'll go to the different courts, the different offices to pick up the paperwork to enter it in, or the department's still responsible to getting it over to your second floor? How's that gonna work?
To be perfectly honest, paperwork that we have to take anywhere else in the county, we have to take to them, so I don't know why we would necessarily be responsible for going to every department. I would more be inclined to think they would have to bring it to us. That would put a pretty big responsibility.
And like how often is that? I mean, is that like a once a day thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, all my family court stuff is housed at the county clerk's office in the old courtroom, in the old courthouse. So I don't have those files, so we have what's called the court run, and they take turns, and every day somebody goes and gets all the family court files for the next day. And I'm assuming the process would work similarly, although Sarah said, I don't know if it would be us getting it or them bringing it. That's
Okay.
certainly something that
Can you
could be worked out.
give some input as to like how this will work with your staff? And
Well, to piggyback on what the judge is saying, I mean, we have several court runs, and it's no problem for someone to, it's my responsibility to make sure that those documents get there. So we haven't had someone right now, I swing through to 911.
right,
It'd be no different than driving,
it'll just be
across the
easier,
street.
more efficient, because it's across the street versus down the road.
I think what we're ultimately doing is taking a handful of kind of part-time needs and putting it all together into one full-time position. Circuit and district need lien work done. Our lien work needs to be done, and needs to be done accurately. Getting stuff, you know, out of lien, that's where you get in trouble, is not getting it out of lien, and you get some woman who paid her fine and she's handcuffed to her kitchen table. And
False arrest, yeah.
Yeah, but our priority is security, and they need some liens. The other department courts need lien work, and we're kind of wrapping it up into one position. We've got the physical space.
But I do think that if we're going to be using him for court security, for him to be going out to every department in the whole county might be a bit much for us to offer up. So I think
Okay.
they could bring it to us.
And I guess my last question, because I've heard from Judge Dignan, have we heard anything, there's discussions been had with Judge Stewart and Judge Clarkson, or Judge Dignan?
I was off last week, and I think Judge Clarkson was off like the week before, so I have not talked to him. I had heard he was looking for somebody to do liens, and the question was there enough to do for a full or part-time position? Judge Stewart, I talked to this morning, he said he's excited. He says, "Are you doing mine too?" Yeah, so he's supportive.
Another duty that oftentimes occurs with the probate court is when we get these juveniles and they're to be housed up in Saginaw, you provided a vehicle to them to make those transports, and our deputy would be able to make some of those runs in one of their cars also. So I know they had to outsource in the past and had trouble finding people to do those runs. So.
And we do still currently pay out to people to do that. So that would eliminate that cost as well, to not have to pay out. And that would be, and I meant to mention that, but the transport part would be huge. And we get calls daily, and I'm sending female probation officers out by themselves to houses, to schools, to get irate kids, and it would be a real relief to send the deputy out.
That's true. And we have the vehicle already. When
Yeah.
you talk about in terms of him serving warrants and augmenting collections, we've got the vehicle. It's a beauty. Thank you for the XM radio.
I'm pretty comfortable with this, but I would like to, I'm planning on voting for it, but I'd like to for sure have official sign off from Judge Clarkson before we vote Wednesday or Thursday, if possible. If we should,
Sign off?
well, have a conversation with them, or make sure that everyone's on board with this,
You've had several
I mean, is that-
conversations with him, Sheriff?
or are we good?
Well, he was in favor of moving the warrants to the district court and providing that warrants be valid on its face. We haven't struck the conversation that it would be moved upstairs. It was that, yes, he was willing to do it, but that he would need full-time staff to do it. So I haven't had that conversation with him, but he is willing to bring the lien entry over into that building. I think.
How about I reach out to him just so you don't have a judge
Yeah,
coming
that'd
in here a
be-
day or two saying, why wasn't I included in this?
No, I think that'd be fine. I think what you'll find is everybody wants their lien work done, but there could be a difference in opinion of how it should be done. But yeah, I certainly haven't tried to exclude them from this.
No, if you want to reach out to him, yes, do that, and let us know.
Or if you'd like to.
I'm gonna let you.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you. My concern would be the $32,477 that we need to figure out where and what line item we'll take that out of. Because your guys is 50,000, is that a hard number or is that a
No.
flexible number?
That's-
Could go up, could go down?
Yeah, I mean, we have, no way of knowing how exactly, but we've got, since the woman who does that has been here for now about 18 months, we're starting to see, I mean, we've had more than one complete year in terms of a budget and revenue list to look at, so it's not hard, but it's not a shot in the dark either.
The only other thing I'd like to add, that contingent on if this was to be accepted, that I'd be given authorization to replace it.
I'll address that at the end for other agenda items. So, anything further? Well, you will talk to Judge
I'm
Clarkson.
working on it right now.
We will look at the $32,477 for Wednesday, find exactly where we're getting that. Anything else? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move on to agenda item 5. Consider authorizing the youth center to hire a part-time youth specialist with salary youths YS, grade 1, 10:19 to 11:29 per hour, for up to 19 hours per week to fill a vacancy, with a starting range of 10:19 per hour to 10:69 per hour. So moved. Motion support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Move to agenda item 6, consider authorizing the Veteran Affairs Office to hire a part-time travel coordinator, salary grade 1, $12.30 to $16 per hour, for up to 19 hours per week to fill a vacancy with a starting range of $12.30 per hour. So move.
Support.
Motion support, any discussion? Want to say anything, or?
I'm Mike, for those commissioners that I haven't met yet, the new Director of Veterans Affairs, and I don't have anything to present unless the commissioners have any questions.
Just refill a vacancy. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Move on to agenda item 7, consider authorizing the Department of Veteran Affairs to create a line item for transportation solution in Fund 291 Veteran Services Programs. This new line item will designate $14,000 of current monies for use of transportation solutions when needed. So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion.
Only question.
Patricia, you're gonna work on getting that new line item?
There's one existing now.
So we already have
It just
one.
needs to be either budgeted or set up.
Okay.
I can have a budget amendment on Wednesday.
Perfect. Does that work?
Absolutely.
I do have a question on that, kind of with this, but what's the status of the second van?
It's coming in July.
July. Okay, I was at a SATA meeting prior to this, and that was brought up, and I didn't really know when it was coming, so July.
It'll get delivered to Saginaw VA, and we'll go up and pick it up.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Move to agenda item 8, consider adopting the proposed Shiawassee County procurement policies and procedures. So moved.
Support.
Motion and support, any discussion on the proposed policy and procedures? This is something that's come before us a few times that we reworked a little bit, and I think all the department heads have seen it now, and elected officials, so. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to 9, any other agenda items? At this time, I would like to entertain a motion which is hinging on agenda item 4, if probate does secure a deputy, that will be taking one from our road patrol. and moving them off the road. So I would like to entertain a motion to refill that road deputy's position. Do we have a salary range, or can we get that by Wednesday?
Sure, it's gonna be right around the same 82,477.
Okay.
That's.
But we just want to make sure that we don't halt the process when this person moves into the probate role, if it passes, then we don't want to have any lag time in getting another deputy to fill that position.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Motion and support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Any other agenda items at this time, Finance Committee? All right, then we'll move to the second opportunity for the public to speak. They have anything? If nothing, adjourn.
But it's sort of,
Yeah.
good news is